Okay, nice to see you all. I'm Dr. Deborah Thompson, and I'm a veterinarian, so an animal doctor. And we are going to be talking about something that's important to you, to me, to the world, honestly. It's something called One Health. And we're going to talk about this pandemic that's going around the world. We're going to talk about how we can protect ourselves today, how can we protect ourselves in the future, and decrease the risk of having this happen all over again, and how can we work together to solve some major world problems. The lesson's called Outbreak, One World, One Health, and let's get started. We're going to go over 5 different definitions, 5 different terms. First is One Health, second is species, third is zoonotic disease, fourth is mutation, and fifth is vaccine. First of all, what on earth is One Health? It's probably something that you've never heard of before, and that's totally fair. It's a term that more people are starting to learn today. It's, in a nutshell, it's the connection between human health, animal health, and environmental health. And some people include environmental health. When they say environmental health, they include plant health and water quality, right? Anything in the surrounding of people and animals, anything in the environment. So by now you know what the environment is. The environment means your surroundings, right? And ecosystem is a little bit different than in the environment. Ecosystem we think about in like a particular geographic area, and all the relationships between the animals and the people and the plants all relate to each other, and we're going to talk about that as well. So put simply, what One Health is, it's this middle star right here. It's the combination, it's the connection of human health, animal health, and environmental health. And remember this, because I'm going to be asking you this same question, what is One Health, later on. So just picture this in your brain, okay? Now, what is a species? A species, it's a group of living things, right, that are so similar that they can make babies. So say, for instance, a dog and a cat, right? A dog can meet another dog and make puppies. 2 cats can make kittens, but a dog and a cat cannot make babies because they're 2 different species. In this picture, how many species, raise your hand, and Vanessa can call on you, how many species do you see in this one picture?
Julia? We see 2 species.
Can you name them?
The human and dogs.
Good. So you're right. Human is 1 species. Perfect. Dogs is another species. And then we have 1 species, at least 1 species of trees in the back, and at least 1 species of grass. So in this example, there's at least 4 species. Let's try another one. How many in this one? Yeah, so there's just 1 species in this one. Last but not least, this one. Who can raise their hand?
Darren?
Is it 3? Because like the dogs and like the stuff in the background.
Exactly, exactly. So you got dogs here, you got at least 1 species of trees, and then at least 1 species of grass. So you have at least 3. Excellent. Now this is the longest term for today, zoonotic disease. So we all know that a disease is a sickness, right? It's an illness. It's caused by a germ, either a virus, bacteria, fungus, often often things that we cannot see with our own eye, but it can also be from worms and other things that we can see with our eyes. But a zoonotic disease is a disease that can jump between different species. And the way to remember this is that the word zoo is in zoonotic disease. Think about how many species are actually in a zoo. Is it just one or is it many, right? It's many, many, many species in a zoo. So when it comes to a zoonotic disease, it's a disease that can jump between different species. And fun fact, zoo in Greek, at least, yeah, I don't think it's Latin, I think it's Greek. Zoo means living thing. So if you think of all the other words starting with zoo, it has to do with a living thing. So just something on the side there for you. So zoonotic disease, a disease that jumps between different species. Can anybody raise their hand and tell me an example of a disease that can come from animals or a disease that we can give animals?
Darren?
SARS.
SARS. Excellent. Yeah, both SARS-CoV-1 and the SARS-CoV-2. Right now, we expect this to have come from an animal. Excellent. Good job. Any other examples?
Julia? Rabies.
Nice. Yep, rabies. And rabies can be affecting any mammal, right? Can anybody define what a mammal is? Maybe Doris?
An animal that gives birth to live offspring, just like not through an egg most of the time, has mammary glands, so they feed their young milk, and they usually have fur.
Yeah, exactly. So anything by that definition can technically carry rabies. Another example is the flu virus. So the flu virus is super interesting in that, so flu influenza is the same thing. The influenza virus can mutate a lot. And we're going to be talking about mutations shortly. And we're going to see an example of how the flu virus can technically jump from different species. And that would be an example of a zoonotic disease, right? So speaking of mutation, all at once, I want everybody to repeat after me. Mutation is change. Ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Mutation
is change.
Yeah, it's a change in behavior, it's a change in development. Change could be good, change could be bad. Change could just be simply change and it's neutral. Same thing with mutations. A mutation can weaken a virus, it can strengthen a virus, or it can simply just change a virus and not have it change its strength. Lots of things can mutate. Plants, right? Animals, people, viruses, bacteria. What mutation do you see in this kitten? Anybody want to raise their hand for that?
Julia? The kitten has 6 fingers.
Yeah, exactly. And is that more or less than normal?
That's more than normal.
Yeah, exactly. So some people say it makes the kitten extra cute. You know, some people say no, it looks gross, but ultimately it's just a change. It's not a big deal. So mutations can do that. Vaccines. So an example of a vaccine is like the flu shot, right? Now, when it comes to vaccines, how can you explain what a vaccine does for the body? Can anybody explain that? And I think one thing to think of is, do you get a vaccine before a germ comes to you or after? So a vaccine is given before somebody gets sick from a germ, because a vaccine's purpose is to strengthen the body so that it can fight that incoming germ. Okay, so a flu shot, a flu vaccine is meant to be given at the start of the flu season. The whole point is because it revs up the body to make it stronger so it can fight that germ. A medication is different. A medication is given after somebody or an animal is sick, right? So as I said before, I'm a veterinarian, I'm an animal doctor, so I give vaccines all the time to my animal patients. Just like human doctors give vaccines to their human patients. But the whole purpose is to strengthen the body so that it can fight a germ. Okay, so here's that question I told you I was going to be asking. What are the 3 parts of One Health? You can raise their hand.
Julia?
Human health, animal health, and environmental health.
Perfect, thank you. And when it comes to environmental health, this is a beautiful forest. Everything is spread out really nicely. All of the different species are happy. They are not competing for food or for shelter. And then something changes. What changes? Who can raise their hand?
Darren?
There's humans that occupied parts of the animals' territory, and they cut down some trees, so they don't have a home anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So the trees are being cut down for purposes, for humans. But yeah, these animals are shifting, right? And they're shifting into a smaller environment. And when that happens, they have to compete more. And what happens with competition? You get more stress. And what happens with more stress? You can show more signs of illness. Also, there are these animals that really should not be necessarily that close to each other. They're not meant to be this close to each other. And what did I say about a zoonotic disease? What is a zoonotic disease? What's that definition?
It's like diseases that can transmit from animals to humans, or humans to animals.
And it can go in reverse too. Yeah, so it's a disease, it's a germ that can be spread between different species. So you can only imagine that when you cut down more trees and these animals are being shuffled out of their own forest because they simply can't compete inside the forest, well then look at all these animals near the people. And to just know about zoonotic diseases, that's not a very good situation, right? Let's take this one step further. Let's talk about, say, because of climate change, or because there's water contamination, or because just simply there's not enough resources, there's too much competition, and all the types of birds are completely wiped out. There are going to be some consequences. Now compare this picture to this picture. What are the changes once all the birds leave? Either they go to another forest or they become extinct. What happens?
Julia?
There are many more rats.
More rats, yeah. Why do you think there are more rats when there are no more birds?
Because the birds eat rats.
Excellent. Yep. Awesome. And what else in this picture eats rats?
Darren?
Probably the foxes, because their population increased by a lot.
A lot, right? Yeah. Yeah, excellent. So no more owls, no more hawks, for instance. There's going to be more mice because the predators leave, but then there are other predators that are coming in, like the foxes. Perfect. Now, there are less trees when there are less birds. Think about other types of birds that eat other things. How can those, when those birds are missing, why are there less trees?
Delia?
Birds spread seeds around to grow more trees and more plants.
Exactly. Exactly. And last but not least, where are all of these animals near? Like where are they?
Delia?
Humans,
Yeah. And what's the problem with that?
there's the zoonotic disease.
Exactly. Yep. So where does this all come from? Right? It all comes from how we treat the environment, right? How we treat nature. Because once we change one thing, there can be a cascade effect, right? There can be so many other changes that we just cannot predict necessarily. So great job, team. You got them all. And why are we talking about the SARS-CoV-2 virus right now? It's because ultimately how we influence the environment causes animals to be in new areas. Now, it could be people going into forests and hunting, right? And being exposed to animals that they really shouldn't be near. Or it could be from these large markets where there are some live animals, and these animals are very stressed and they can be sharing germs amongst themselves. And also there are so many people in those markets. So the thing is that some people eat wild animals because of sheer necessity, right? They do it because they have no other source of protein for their diet, and it's so important for them. But then there are other people who eat it because it's a delicacy, right? It's something special for special occasions. Other people just like the taste. But it comes down to education, right? It comes down to making sure people are aware there are more risks. If you're in a situation where there are a lot of animals that are stressed out, well, then they could be bringing diseases or germs between each other, but then also us. And the majority of human infectious diseases, diseases that spread between individuals, actually can come from animals. So it's something that we cannot ignore anymore in this world. We have to be aware of it, and we have to learn how we can address these changes to the environment so that we can prevent this type of outbreak from happening in the future. So again, viruses can mutate just like a lot of other things, such as people, animals, plants, viruses, and more, like bacteria and such. But this novel coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, it's zoonotic. According to many, many, many scientists, it jumps between different species and it can mutate. Fortunately, it does not seem to mutate as much as the influenza or the flu virus, but it can still mutate. Scientists working with models. Models are just a really nice way to pretend that you're working in, in reality, but you're just using a model. So if you mess up, you're not affecting reality, right? It's a really nice way to predict the future. It's a really nice way to predict like risks of disease transmission or any other prediction. And we're going to use a model with a sentence to demonstrate a mutation. So let's have a volunteer, and we're going to try, remember mutation means change, right? We're going to try to not mutate this sentence. And it's a tongue twister. Who can say this tongue twister 5 times fast? Who wants to be the first volunteer? Doris, would you like to go?
Sure. A black bug bit a big black bear. 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 A black bug bit a big black bear.
Holy cow. That was much better than I could have ever done. Holy cow. Yeah, I heard maybe one mutation and all that. Darren, do you want to try?
Okay, sure. A black bug bit a big black bear. A black bug bit a big black bear. A black bug bit a big black bear. A black bug bit a big black bear.
It's so hard, right? And are you doing this on purpose or by accident?
By accident.
Exactly. And that's how mutations work in nature too. They're not necessarily done on purpose, it's done by accident. And that's just how it goes sometimes. But like when I say this sentence, my God, my goodness, I am terrible at it. I say like a back blood bit of blet. You just add L's all throughout this. It's an example of how you can have mutations, how you can have changes. And if at this point in your education, you know about DNA and RNA and the genetic material that goes into, cells and living things, mutations can shift how when a cell is trying to replicate, when it's trying to divide, the machinery that's helping it divide, it can stumble, right? It can mess up sometimes by accident. And that's just an example of, I'm reading through this and I'm messing up all the time. So that's just an example with a model of what one of the mutations is. And that's actually an example of what's called a point mutation. Okay, sometimes directions inside the body are just simply not that clear. And so the body or a cell is transmitting, sending out a signal, but that signal is not being received properly. And we're going to use another model to demonstrate this. I need 2 volunteers. I'll say Delia and Darren, okay? So we're going to say, with this example, mutations happen when you're not speaking clearly. I want you both to stay muted right now. And Delia, you can go first. So silently say either the word hi or I. Okay? Say it 3 times while you're muted. Everybody else on the line is going to guess. Are you saying hi or are you saying I? And on the 4th time, you unmute yourself and you tell us what you're actually saying. Ready? Okay. I'm going to guess this.
I said hi.
Yes! I won! Yes! Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Delia. Okay, Darren, you're going to say either heart, we're going to go like this, or art, we're going to go like this. Okay? Go for it. What was it, Darren?
Yeah, it was art.
What? Wonderful. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate that. So that's an example of translation when it comes to genetics. So you're trying to send out a message. You're trying to build a protein out of this code that machinery is reading, but you're not doing such a good job. Okay, and the protein has some bloopers in it. It has some errors in it, and but the DNA should have been, or the RNA that is, should have been fine, the messenger RNA. So something that you'll learn in more detail later on in your education, but interesting to see that, accidents happen. This is just the way it goes. Another fascinating way to see a mutation, and this is what happens actually with bird flu, swine flu, if you've heard of this. So one virus finds another virus inside of something else, and they combine and make a new virus. Red, blue equals purple, right? So what's inside this thing? It could be a pig, right? So this could have been a bird flu virus. This could have been a person or a pig flu virus, comes in to one body and then comes out as a whole nother virus. It can happen in other species too. But keep in mind, when it comes to bats, some people say, okay, well, I've heard that this novel coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2, came from bats, so we should just destroy all the bats. What is the problem with that? That's a huge problem. Bats are super, super, super important. Why are bats important?
Julia?
They pollinate things.
Look at all that pollen on that cute little face, right? So it's eating fruit, it's eating parts of the flower and all that pollen. This bat will then go to another tree and pollinate that other tree, and then there are going to be more and more trees. Look at this. This bat is eating an insect. Bats can eat mosquitoes too, and including this, plus this moth, for instance. But mosquitoes can carry some diseases. Do you know any diseases that mosquitoes can carry?
Ebola, I think.
So I don't know if I heard you right. Did you say malaria? Because malaria is one, so that's excellent. Zika is another one that you might have heard of. So, you know, when it comes to bats, they're a term used in ecology is a keystone species. And a keystone species means that if that one species disappears, then the entire ecosystem disappears, it collapses. So remember that slide where I had the picture of the birds leaving and then all the other consequences? Well, think of no more trees, no more foxes, no more bats, no more rats, no more mice. Only people would be there because people are determined. But yeah, that's what happens with keystone species. So when you get rid of a keystone species, everything else goes away. And some bats are considered keystone species. So that's important to know about. Bats are super, super important. So it comes down to not, destroying the bats. It has nothing to do with that, but it has to do with protecting them and keeping our distance. Okay, let's see how two viruses can actually mutate into one with another model. Okay, we're going to use a sentence and as this model. The backbone of the sentence is, once upon a time, blank, blank, that blank to blank, blank, and blank. With these examples, the red sentence representing the red virus is, once upon a time, there was an extremely happy rabbit that loved to eat carrots and bananas. It's cute. It's a nice sentence. That's good. The blue sentence is, once upon a time, there was an extremely sneaky lion that roared to scare friends and neighbors. Okay. Well, let's see what happens when we combine this red sentence and this blue sentence. Let's see if the message gets stronger or weaker. Once upon a time, there was an extremely happy lion that loved to scare carrots and neighbors. Don't know about that one. Once upon a time, there was an extremely sneaky rabbit that roared to eat friends and bananas. Okay, so honestly, do you think that these mutations strengthened the virus, the messaging, or weakened the messaging, or just made it plain weird? What do you guys think?
Darren?
Weakened?
Yeah, I think it weakened in some areas, just made it weird in other areas. It certainly did not strengthen. So what we're going to do for the next example or the next contest, let's say, is we're going to use the chat box and fill in the blank. Everybody should write once upon a time, comma, there was a, and then in capital letters, write the words that you fill in for the blanks, okay? Let's take about, I don't know, 40 seconds or so to do that. And I'll also contribute. Oh, Doris, you're fast. Okay, let me try too. Doris, I don't know. Dream to hug rainbows and cups. I don't know if that's a mutated sentence or if that's your original, but I love it. Either way, I love it. Thank you, Vanessa. So for those that cannot see the chat, I'll read all the ones that I see right now. So one is, once upon a time, there was an extremely smart monkey that dreamed to hug rainbows and cups. Another one is, once upon a time, there was an extremely little mouse that walked the lawn for days. Another one is, once upon a time, there was a bumblebee that pollinated the flowers for fun. Any others that we want to contribute? About 10 more seconds. Okay. So, Editunji, are you able to see the chat box?
Yes.
Perfect. Can you combine one or two of these sentences to make a whole new sentence and just alternating between the capitalized words?
Yes.
Okay, great. And while he's thinking of how to combine those sentences, whoever drew that on the screen, please erase it. Editunji, are you ready to combine those sentences? You can just say it. You don't need to write it. Oh, you're muted. Darren, could you help Editunji out?
Okay, sure.
So which two sentences do you want to combine?
Maybe Doris's and Deborah and yours.
Yeah, sure. So could you read it out loud to us?
Once upon a time, there was an extremely little bumblebee that walked the flowers for days.
Very good. Yeah. Actually, that kind of made sense. I kind of like that one. I think that one strengthened. I don't know. What do you guys think? That actually worked well. Delia, do you want to try another combination?
Sure. Once upon a time, there was an extremely smart mouse that dreamt the lawns for cups.
Okay. And then did that strengthen or weaken the sentence?
That weakened the sentence.
Definitely weakened the sentence. And I liked your example, your sentence, once upon a time there was a random box that drank the milk for dogs. I like that one. So good job there. Oh, and then again, whoever put the green on the screen, please try to erase that. Okay. So when it comes to the structure of viruses, it really simply comes down to an outer shell and an inner core. It's as simple as that. And honestly, simplicity in nature is one of the best ways to go. You don't want to be too complicated. So thank you. So when it comes to a quote unquote normal virus, a red virus, it could be an inner red core and an outer red shell. But look what happens when you have, say, a blue core. This can be called a mutation. It's a change, right? Same thing goes with this example. Blue on blue is a typical or a normal type of virus, and then a mutation can cause a different look to the virus. And with a change, it could be a change of behavior, of characteristics. But here's the kicker. Here's the thing to remember. When it comes to the shell, that's responsible for how infectious, how easy it is for this virus to get into a cell. This is like the lock and key, okay? The outer shell dictates how easy it is to enter a cell. Once you get inside the cell, this inner core is important. This determines how much you can replicate or how much you can multiply. How many more viruses can you make from this one virus, right? And so if you think about if the mutation weakens or strengthens a virus, it can either change the infectivity of it or it can change the replication. So for this red example, having a blue core will affect the red virus's ability to replicate or multiply within the cell. When it comes to the blue virus in this example, it's the red core that will make adjustments to its replication. Do you see what I mean? So it's this virus and this virus that are the two mutations out of these four. Now let's talk about how we can protect ourselves today from the virus that causes COVID-19. We're going to be talking about two parts of the One Health concept, the human health component and environmental health. Does anybody know how long are we supposed to wash our hands for with soap and water?
Julia?
30 seconds.
Yeah, good. At least 20 seconds. Definitely 30 seconds is wonderful. Okay, some other ideas. When you cough or sneeze and you use your elbow, after you use your elbow, what happens if you cross your arms?
Darren?
Your hands would be infected by your cough and it would be contaminated.
Yeah, and then what are you supposed to do at that point?
Either wash your hands or use some sort of hand sanitizer or alcohol.
Yeah, perfect. And then the hand sanitizer, I believe it has to be at least 60% alcohol. And then when it comes to soap and water, how many seconds do you have to wash for at least?
20 seconds.
Perfect. Now, if you do use a tissue, just make sure that you put the tissue in a lined trash can and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. The only time you can touch your eyes, nose, mouth is with clean hands. Never touch it with dirty hands. It's really important to make sure that your environment stays clean, right? And you keep your distance from other people until the public health officials tell you that it's okay. Now, if you're sick, is it better or worse to be hanging around with your other family members?
Darren?
Worse, because you could infect your family members. And if you go too close to them, they would get infected, which is bad.
Yeah, exactly. Not fun, right? What about pets? Do you know what to do with that, with them, if you're sick? You're supposed to try to keep your distance just like you would with your other family members. It's whenever you feel sick, just try to, if you live alone and you have pets, then just try to keep yourself as far away from them. You know, feed them when they need to be fed, clean their litter box or whatnot when they need. But if it's possible to, you know, give the pet to a friend until you get better, that might be a good idea. Or otherwise, just keep your pets in a separate room and you stay in another room for the vast majority of the time. Get an automatic feeder, something like that, an automatic litter box. That will take care of the needs of the cat, for instance. But it is very important to try to keep your distance as much as possible. And granted, if you were to have your friend look after your dog, they might want to, just with soap and water, just a bath for the cat or dog might be a good idea. But definitely no Clorox, absolutely no bleach, absolutely no disinfectants on the animals, nothing like that, please. That would not be good for the animals. So now we're going to look at a really cool video out of Mythbusters, that's from the Discovery Channel, and we're going to learn about how far a sneeze can actually go and what can we do to protect ourselves. Afterward, I'm curious to hear what you think of the video. Oh, and by the way, they use food dye, food coloring, to illustrate how far the sneeze goes.
That's one. Yeah. Oh, there's another one coming. For each style, they're going to unleash a sample of 3 sneezes. Oh, it looks horrible, doesn't it? I look like a vampire. Ah! Adam's face is a picture, but it's the canvas that tells the real story. I see spots up to 8 feet away, dude.
Yeah, it did spread quite a lot, but there's a lot of markings here. So I'd say single hand, not so good.
Yeah, not so good. Not so good. And then some. Even with his hand directly in front of the oncoming sneeze, Adam can't begin to contain the explosion.
Now, I'm pretty clear sneezing into your hand is meant as a courtesy to those around you to keep from spreading your germs onto them. And as far as I can see, it's quite effective at doing exactly the opposite. I noticed there's almost no red dye on me at all, and crap loads all around me. If I was on the subway, I'm typhoid Mary.
With the hand getting the thumbs down, can the elbow do any better? To find out, it's over to Jamie, and he'll be sneezing in green.
Now, we wait for the sneeze to take effect. On James, who's your nose? Slowly, it irritates the cilia inside.
And with the cilia salivating, 3 sneezes later, and the results are very impressive.
Yeah, I see only 2 droplets and 1 on your shoe, and let's look at your elbow hair. That's totally localized to you, man.
And you know what? It's all on my arm and not on my hand, so I'm not as likely to spread it around.
Yeah, doubly effective.
Hands down, the elbow is a highly effective technique, with virtually the entire sneeze contained on each of Jamie's sneezes. But can the humble hanky do better still? Well, it's back to Adam, and for this final test, he's sneezing in blue.
How did we do? I see a tiny dot of blue there.
At first, it seems like the hanky may be victorious, until
I see some on the hanky.
Look, it's penetrated all the way to both sides.
It's penetrated both sides, and perhaps most damningly, it's on my hands, ready to spread to the next person whose hand I shake.
the sneeze seeped through the hanky, contaminating Adam's hand, making it a pretty poor technique. And it gets worse.
Let me make one more thing clear about this hanky I'm holding here. Imagine, how'd you sneeze in it all day long? You keep on putting it in your pocket, pulling it back out, giving people change from your pocket, handing them your pen, handing them your phone, talking on your phone, spreading germs. Yeah, it's not just a Rorschach test, it's a petri dish.
Okay. Anything surprise you Anything that you learned? Yeah, Darren?
I didn't know that like sneezes from even if you cover them up, they could spread so far, and also how like it could contaminate everywhere around you and not just your hand.
Yeah, pretty gross to think about, right? Delia, did you have something to add?
I found that the hanky was very like disgusting because if you sneeze on it and you fold it and you open it again, your sneeze is still on it.
And put it in your pocket, right? It's like, oh, it's like a breeding ground for germs. So yes, exactly. So if you are going to use a tissue, put it in a lined trash can right away and wash your hands right after for at least 20 seconds, right? Yeah, exactly. Those things surprised me too the first time. Anything that surprised you, Adetunji?
No, nothing.
Awesome. Well, it's good that you knew these things already. Wonderful. Okay, so we covered what we can do today to protect ourselves. Let's talk about One Health in general, right? Let's talk about how we can protect ourselves in the future. Fortunately, there are scientists of all different backgrounds joining forces and trying to get a vaccine for the planet, you know, for people around the world. And so these scientists could be physicians, that means human doctors, veterinarians, animal doctors, people working with immune systems, people working with viruses. We're all working together around the world to make a vaccine. Now, could you tell me, are vaccines given before somebody's sick or after somebody's sick?
Darren?
Before someone's sick.
Before somebody's sick. What's the point of a vaccine?
Julia?
It's to strengthen the body or prepare for the virus.
Yeah. It could prepare for whatever germ is coming your way. It could be a virus, it could be a bacteria. Absolutely. Good job. And the other component is we need to stay away from animals that we really shouldn't be near. Why is that important?
Julia?
It could transfer a disease to you, or you can transfer the disease to the animal.
Absolutely. Yeah, good job. And for Adetunji, why is rebuilding a forest and just thinking about environmental health, why is that important when you think of animal health and human health? You're muted. I don't know if I'll be able to unmute you or not.
Yeah, you know.
I don't know if you heard, but I was asking, why is rebuilding the forest or taking care of the environment important when it comes down to, you know, thinking about animal health and human health?
So it helps breathing oxygen. So breathing like oxygen.
Can you say it one more time? It was hard to hear you.
So it helps in breathing.
It helps with breathing in oxygen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Certainly plants are so important for, you know, contributing oxygen because that's what we're breathing, and then we're contributing carbon dioxide, right? And then it just recycles, and then it goes into photosynthesis and, you know, energy generation in plants. And yeah, studying that stuff is so cool, in my opinion. I think biology is just absolutely fascinating. Maybe that's why I'm a vet. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all connected, right? Be it with air, with oxygen and carbon dioxide, or, you know, clean water in the environment will help make animals stay healthy, and people and plants. So, you know, we're all connected. Now, Darren, you mentioned that you were surprised with how far a sneeze can go. I recommend you go to this website. It's e-bug.eu, and Boogiebus is super fun to play. It's a way to stop the spread of a sneeze inside of a school bus. And there are a few other fun games that you could play too. I wanted to thank you all for your great contributions and answering these questions. I hope you were able to learn a lot. And thanks again for attending. That was a lot of fun.